We're live, and we had technical problems, which means Barb's in charge. So, hello. Welcome to our special Florida edition. We're here from Clearwater, Florida. Renee is still in Wisconsin. Sadly, COVID knocked her out of the trip. But we're here with a special guest tonight. This is Shirley Joe, who, do you guys remember our episode where we talked about recommended books? Shirley is the author of Writing Compelling Fiction. So say hi, Shirley.
Hey, everybody. Thank you for having me on Step Into the Story.
So yeah, okay. What did you do this weekend, Shirley?
Let me think. I think I got married.
Yeah. This is
look at that gorgeous dress. Oh my gosh, so gorgeous.
And there's the reason we're here.
A handsome man. Yes, that's why you guys came down for my wedding. I very much appreciate it.
On the beach.
It was not a hardship. I gotta say, coming to Florida was not a hardship.
Yeah. All right, so we're gonna play today. We are gonna do something different than we normally do. Today we're playing weird history, fact, or fiction. And I'm gonna read you some stories, and you're gonna tell me if they're real or they're fiction.
Did we want to introduce ourselves just in case we have brand new viewers?
We could do that, sure. I am Barb Wallace. I am a Amazon best-selling author of romance and mystery. These are my partners in crime. Renee, want to say hello?
I'm Renee Ryan, and I am Jill of all trades. Right now I'm writing historical fiction.
And Donna Allward.
I'm Donna. I'm a New York Times bestselling author of romance, making the pivot into historical.
There we go. And we'll say this is Shirley Jump. She's also a New York Times bestseller, and she is the author of Writing Compelling Fiction, available on Amazon.
So good.
As well as 80 some odd romance novels myself, even though I look kind of pale and dead here in this light. Sorry, just bad lighting tonight.
And Donna and I are in the same location. We're just in separate rooms, so I don't scream in her ear.
I won Shirley tonight.
And I'm by myself.
We missed Renee. Okay, so I'm going to read you the stories, and you're going to say whether they're fact or fiction. Those of you who are watching, go ahead and type in fact or fiction and play along, and let us know if you think what you think the answer is, and I will tell you. All right, you guys ready?
Yep.
All right. In order to write his way through writer's block while writing The Hunchback of Notre Dame, Victor Hugo had his servants take away all his clothes, including the ones he was wearing, and have them refuse to return it until he completed his writing for the day.
Interesting.
If that's true, I feel really bad for the servants that had to look at it.
I'm going to say fiction because I'm thinking at that time period it'd be a little drafty.
Sure.
I'm going to go with fact because, a lot of us have experienced writer's block, and that would be a pretty big incentive to me.
I'm going to say fiction because I think it's all true, but I'm thinking it wasn't his clothes. I'm thinking it was maybe like alcohol or something that they took away from him.
Or food.
It is actually true. His wife Adela relayed the story in her memoir, although it is more likely he was allowed to wear pajamas or clothes that were just unsuitable for public appearance. But because he had no proper clothes to appear in public, he would finish his writing for the day. So yeah, I don't think he was just sitting around in all his glory.
So like the original writer in pajamas.
Yeah, he was.
Right? Although that would not incentivize me. I would just want to curl up on the couch and sleep and be like, nah, keep the clothes.
Yeah, just Netflix and hot chocolate, right?
If I had the pajamas, yeah, I would have to be completely naked because then I'd be cold and I'd want to get it done.
Yes.
I don't want to picture that.
And considering we all work at home with our husbands, that probably wouldn't end very productively.
No,
I'm just saying.
On the word count.
All right, number 2. In World War II, the German Air Force came up with an experimental strap-on helicopter called the Helio Fly, but the project was disbanded due to frequent decapitations.
Of birds or people?
People, frequent decapitations.
Sounds pretty believable to me, I gotta say.
Fiction.
I'm going fact.
Okay, Renee?
Tiebreaker.
I'm going to say fact this time.
Okay. Yes, Renee and Shirley are right. It was called the Baumgartner Helio Fly 357, and it was developed by Paul Baumgartner, and it was powered by two 8-horsepower engines, each driving a single blade of the contra-rotating rotors. He was working on the design before World War II. I couldn't find any confirmation of the decapitations, but weirdhistory.com claims that that is why they discontinued it. So, like, the guy would hold on to his little helicopter and it would.
See,
Well,
and anybody
I would
who
think
would remember,
one decapitation would be enough.
right?
So, but we're talking about
Anybody who would remember that happening wouldn't have their heads, so they couldn't tell anyone about it.
I mean,
No
Yes.
first-hand accounts.
and
That's
it was
true,
the
yes.
Nazis. So I'm thinking,
oh
Okay.
my.
At the height of the Cold War, U.S. intelligence launched Operation Acoustic Kitty. Veterinarians implanted cats with small microphones and radio transmitters. The cats would then record and transmit sound from around the Soviet embassy. The program was discontinued after the test cat was struck and killed by a taxi upon release near embassy grounds.
True. I'm going with fiction.
I'm the first real life drone. I'm going. And I'm a kitty fan. Where's my cat? I don't. These are so absurd. They all sound like fiction. I'm going fiction.
Nope, it is true.
Really? Wow. You got a cat to
Funny
do
story.
with
This was originally, my husband and I made it up as a fiction one. And then we found out that there really was an Operation Acoustic Kitty. It cost $20 million.
Wow.
How much?
20 million. Apparently, there was a large colony of feral cats around the Soviet embassy. So they figured that if they had a spy cat, it would blend in. So they embedded a tiny little remote control in its ear, and they fixed his stomach so he wouldn't be distracted by mousing. And they let him out. Now, Robert Wallace, the former director of the CIA, does say that that's the taxi story part is not true. And that the real reason that they abandoned the program is because the cats wouldn't listen.
Okay, because Shirley was like, I can't believe someone got a cat to do what they wanted it to do. So that follows.
Well, apparently the first time they did it, they put the microphone in and let the cat was always distracted by going for mice. So they had to do a second operation to like give him a smaller stomach so he wouldn't be distracted by hunger.
I can't stop laughing.
So apparently after it was, they said that the cat was, because he wouldn't listen. So what they did was remove all the equipment from the cat, and he lived a long and healthy life as a nice.
That's what they tell you when you bring your dog to the shelter, that it went and lived on a farm with a bunch of children.
I mean, can you imagine?
Exactly.
Wait, no. Can you imagine the planning session on this whole thing? Because it's all men. They're sitting around going, "How can we get inside the embassy? I know. Let's go with cats.
Let's hurt a cat." All right, continuing with weapon design. Ready? The British once developed a bomb that could bounce.
The bomb that could bounce?
True. False. Oh, wait, the bouncing Betty. I'll say true.
I'm going to say true.
Yep, you are right. It is definitely fact. The bouncing bomb was used to take out dams in Germany. It commenced in 1943 and would actually form some of the most memorable World War II history, because it would do they were called the dam busters. And what they do is skim like a pebble when you skimmed across the water. And so they detonated and took the dam with them. So
And
they
it was
skimmed the bomb across.
they were flown by Lancasters.
Oh, were they?
Yep. It was Lancasters that were used as dam busters.
It's
I
actually
have a photo of Lancasters above my fireplace, and the painting is called The Dam Busters.
There's actually a famous movie about the bouncing bomb too. Oh. Okay, we'll keep going with bombs because I like
any of these fiction? Because so far they've all been fact.
There's some fiction ones in here too.
Okay.
Towards the end of World War II, the U.S. developed an experimental weapon known as the bat bomb. The bomb consisted of a bomb-shaped casing with over 1,000 compartments. Each compartment contained a hibernated Mexican free-tailed bat, armed with a small, timed incendiary bomb. Upon deployment, the casings would open, release the bats, who would then disperse, take roost in eaves and attics, and set fire to the structures.
I'm going fiction.
I'm going fiction with that one.
I'm going fact because who can make that crap up?
I thought the specific bat would give it away. That is fact. Bomb.
Really?
Yes.
Barb, I love you, but you and your husband sitting around going, let's see. Let's make up.
The thing is, I can totally see Pete doing that.
Yeah.
This is
Pete
I bet
and,
you
actually,
Pete is
and
so
my
excited
son.
for this.
My son, who has the bomb research books, helped to put this stuff together. The bomb was the idea of Lytle S. Adams, a dental surgeon from Irwin, Pennsylvania, and a friend of Eleanor Roosevelt. So that explains how they paid attention to it. He suggested the idea, knowing that most Tokyo buildings were constructed of wood and paper and would burn to the ground. In his letter, Adams stated that the bat was, quote, the lowest form of animal life, and that until now, reasons for its creation have remained unexplained, but that they were clearly created by God to await this hour to play their part in the scheme of free human existence.
Oh my God.
The program was approved by President Roosevelt, but they later abandoned it in favor of the atom bomb.
Bats, atom bomb. I mean,
think about how the war would have went.
hey, before you go to the next one,
Yeah.
have we shown off our t-shirts yet?
No, we have our new.
Okay, I'm not standing up, but I have one on as well.
That's right.
There we go.
I have the Red Sox.
No, but these are available, and we at some point we might even have Step in the Story merchandise for people. People will.
We dream big.
It's going to be huge. The next fashion trend.
That's it.
All right, you guys ready?
Mm-hmm.
During World War I, bats were so scarce due to the British naval blockade that Germans built a factory known as the Cadaververwertungsanstalt. Do not ask me to say that again. Whose primary job was to extract glycerin from the battlefield corpses. The material was used to manufacture nitroglycerin, candles, lubricants, and boot polish.
Ew.
I'm just gonna go no because ew.
Just ew. Ew. Fiction.
Fiction.
Y'all say fiction?
Mm-hmm.
You are correct.
Good.
It was invented. Wait a minute, though. This is interesting. It was invented. The British, after they did the bouncing bombs, they invented it as propaganda because they wanted to draw China into World War I on their side, and they figured that China reveres the dead so much that they would be so appalled by the story that they would want to join. And the key is they said, it's fake because the guy spelled cadaver with a K, which is not correct.
Hence
So
the need for a writer and
Never
editor.
So yeah, it is fake, but it is also the first example of fake news because every paper picked it up.
Wow.
And it took years before people realized it was fake. After the war, and it still kept going. And finally, some guys no, we made that up. The Germans were not pulling fat from dead bodies.
Birds aren't real.
Yeah. So that was a fake one. All right.
Did you catch that? Birds aren't real.
Birds aren't real. All right. Okay, this is our last one. All right. I didn't do many because we were trying to keep it short because it's a short, fun show. Here we go. The Grimm Brothers folktale, The Pied Piper, is based on an actual event. What I had another fake one. I just missed that one.
That just gave it away, but I already knew that was true.
I was going to say, I know that's fact.
Yes.
I'm going to say I know it. I thought it was.
Donna? Yeah, it is fact.
Yep.
No one knows the exact details, but in Hamelin, Germany, a 500-year-old plaque reads AD 1284, on the 26th of June, the day of St. Paul and St. John, 100 children were led out of town by a piper wearing multicolored clothes. After passing the cavalry near the Koppenberg, they disappeared forever. Now, if those of you who know the story, the Pied Piper, when he didn't get paid, took the kids, and they went up and the mountain opened, and then they disappeared. So there's also an entry in the town records dated 1384 that reads, "It's been 100 years since our children left."
Oh,
And in the 15th century Lunenburg manuscript that refers to a similar story of 130 children following a Pied Piper to a place called Calvary. The leading theory is that the group was part of a migration of Germans to Eastern Europe fueled by an economic depression, and that the recruiter was responsible for organizing migrations were said to have worn colorful garments and played an instrument to attract the attention of possible settlers. They think they either went to Transylvania or to Berlin.
thought the Pied Piper like attracted rats. I thought that's what that
Well,
was.
that's the story, that he rid the town of rats, and then they didn't pay him.
Oh.
And then he got the kids and he took them away.
Exactly.
It was his revenge.
Yep.
The Grimm fairy tales are sad, twisted stories.
They are. But that one is based on truth. So I can give you one more from my head.
Okay.
Which was the story of taps. Was that during the Civil War, a captain heard someone crying for help, and they went out to the field and they found a Confederate soldier who was dying, and it turned out to be a relative of the captain. So they dragged him back to camp, and he died in the captain's arms. And because he was a relative, the captain asked that they could give him a military burial, and the commanding officer said, "We cannot, because he's the enemy." So when they put him in the dirt, he said, "If you want, you can have the bugle play something." So he played "Day Is Done," which is taps. And that was the first time they played it as a military funeral.
Wow.
Sweet
Fact.
and sad. I say fact. Sweet and sad.
No, I think you reeled me in with that one.
I think it's fact.
Donna's right. It's fiction. The real story is that a cannoneer was killed in battle, and the captain buried them. And because he was afraid that the military gunshots would bring gunfire, he had the guy play taps.
Oh, okay.
And put him in the ground. And there's actually a stained glass in Washington, D.C. that commemorates this.
But wouldn't that have been just as loud?
But he was just playing the trumpet bugle, which is the notorious
versus the shotgun.
Right. And supposedly the name taps comes from because the original music is called the Dutch, I forget the name of it now, but it translates to taps, which means shut your beer tap off. It's time to close.
Wow.
It always goes back to beer.
Always go back to beer.
Demon liquor.
So that is what I have for weird facts and fiction. If anyone wants to throw in some weird fact and fiction, if you know any.
I can't make this crap up.
Listen Kitty was my favorite.
So Adidas and Puma, the two sneaker companies, were started because of a war between two brothers in a bunker during World War II. The two of them hated each other and had lots of little petty squabbles. And when one brother was already in the bunker and the other one got in during a bomb scare, and the brother that was already there said, "Oh, it's them again." And the second brother took personal offense to that, thinking that he meant them when he really meant the Germans that were bombing them. The brothers never spoke again. They broke up. Their brother formed sneaker company and became Adidas and Puma.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
That is very
shitting
cool.
me.
It's true. I used it in a client's book the other day. It's a
Really?
true story. Yep. Really is. Yeah. It was Adolf was one of the brothers' names, and the other one was Rudy, I think, but his nickname was something that was from Puma. And that's where Adidas and Puma came from.
Well,
We could do a whole book. I mean, a whole series of books on weird history. That would be fun.
Most of this came from the website. There's a Twitter that I follow called Weird History, and most of my things came from that, or from a book called The World's Dumbest Weapons. I think that's what it's called. I gave to my son for a Christmas gift, which included things like the Germans invented a gun that could shoot around corners, but it exploded.
Yeah, because you need oh my gosh. I mean, did they not understand physics? And I didn't do well in physics, but I just know how a gun works.
The Germans also invented this really great, it was a remote control little mini tank that was a bomb. And the idea was that they could send the bomb into the enemy lines and the guys could explode it from a distance. The problem is it had to have like a tripwire that like ran from the radio control all the way to the device. So when it would come over to the Americans, they just cut the wire and like turn it off.
Well,
so the Germans were blowing stuff and blew up.
My first World War II book, the whole thing was about, and this is true, is that the Germans had created these magnetic bombs. And so they put them in the water, like the estuaries and in the English Channel. And their whole point was that they were trying to get merchant ships, because this was like early before America got in and all into the war. And they were actually magnetized. So the bomb would be drawn to the hull of the ship. And as soon as it hit, it would blow up.
But didn't it just get drawn to the ship that dropped it?
No. because those were U-boats and they would spit them out. They had like a special tube that they would spit it out.
Like a torpedo.
Yeah, like a torpedo. And so then it was just sitting out there kind of waiting for something to attract it. And what the Americans and Brits ended up doing was they created, and this is true, they created this sort of airplane that had this anti-magnetic thing that would fly over the water really low, and then it would demagnetize the bombs.
Huh.
That was, of course, after they lost a bunch of merchant ships.
The Germans came up with a ton of unusual weapons.
Yeah.
I did discover that. And so did the British. Most of the British ones were really weird and failed. Most of the German ones were also really weird and failed. And the Americans just went with the atomic bomb and the bats.
Well, the Germans at the time were considered, Germans and Austrians were considered the most, the most brilliant minds in the world at the time.
Yeah. And that's why we went.
It's not surprised. It's unfortunate because think of all the things that could have happened without a freaking tyrant and a tyranny running that at the time, running the country, what they could have come up with.
And I was good, but a lot of them had to do, a lot of the weird history did have to do with animals. Like the first animal that got awarded a medal for bravery was a pigeon. And there's a lot of pigeon stories. It was surprising. I was like, this pigeon is credited with saving this boat had sunk, and the men had there was nothing they could do. They released the carrier pigeon, and the people who got the carrier pigeon realized that something must have happened if these guys released the carrier pigeon. So they set out and found the men floating.
I do have one. Well, it's more trivia because I don't do well with the whole making crap up, but
We didn't miss
because I do it for a living.
Peter and I made up a cat one, which turned out to be real, and then Peter came up with one that had to do with herring.
Okay, so here's a little factoid though that is really interesting from the Halifax explosion, which of course I'm writing about. So when the explosion happened, it was around 9 a.m. So a lot of people were stoking their fires and getting their fires ready for the day. So when that happened, there were a lot of house fires because stoves were overturned, ashes were spread and ignited, and so there were a lot of fires that happened. And one of the rescues included a little girl who did not succumb to fire because she was sheltered under the ash pan, and that was what saved her. And they rescued her from under. She was like 2, I think. And she was rescued under the ash pan, and so her nickname actually became Ash Pan Annie. So if you look up Ash Pan Annie, you'll find that story. And I can't believe Sue's not in here correcting whatever parts of that I didn't get quite accurate, because I'm sure she knows the story.
She does. She said she's watching. She's at Death by Chocolate.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, she said she would watch later.
Yeah, so I'm sure she'll leave a comment later and tell me which parts of that I didn't get quite
Wait, Death by Chocolate, is that the Kiss of Death award ceremony? Is that what she's watching, or is it
No, I don't think so.
No, she just said I'm going by myself to Death by Chocolate. So it must be a chocolate festival.
Okay.
Well, thank you very much, Shirley, for taking time out of your honeymoon.
Mrs. Dominique.
I know, right?
Mrs. Dominique.
You can see the ring,
We highly recommend her book, Writing Compelling Fiction. Shirley knows a lot about writing.
Or any of her books.
Any of her books.
Yeah.
But if you want to learn how to write a book, she's the girl to go to.
Yeah.
And
You're an excellent teacher.
Thank you.
we will be back on the 24th at a special time at 1 p.m. with inimitable Angela.
Angela Anderson.
From
Yep.
Angela Anderson Presents. And we'll be talking about Piper Hughley book, By Her Design. Oh, you're welcome. Someone said, thanks for the history lessons. I said, you're welcome.
Yes. And I'm reading Piper's book right now, and it is phenomenal. I highly recommend reading it before we have our discussion.
No, it's not out till June. We're so you can't.
Oh.
But
All right, we're going to get really excited about buying it.
Right. We will be talking about it, and it's already getting a great deal of buzz. We're going to kind of look at why it's getting the buzz beforehand, and hopefully we'll sell lots because Piper's a friend of the broadcast, and she's a fantastic writer.
It's on the Kindle.
So
I loaded it today.
Yay.
So, and then we will have some more programs in June. So anyways, thank you for coming. Thanks for putting up with our silliness and for the history lesson.
It was silly
See you all in a
tonight.
couple weeks. Bye-bye.